Rootstock is a layer 2 EVM compatible blockchain that runs on top of Bitcoin. EVM compatible, which means you can deploy Solidity contracts just like on Ethereum. Think of Rootstock as Bitcoin's smart contract layer, combining Bitcoin's trust with Ethereum's flexibility and scalability. Why does indexing on Rootstock matters? Most of the time, smart contracts usually generate a huge amount of on-chain events and transactions. And if you try fetching all of this directly from an RPC node, it's slow and inefficient. So indexing makes it possible for you to filter only the data that you care about. You could store it in a structured database, and you could also query it very fast using GraphQL API. Now, there are two tools which you could use to index smart contracts. We'll be focusing on Subsquid. Subsquid is an infra which helps you index smart contracts, and it is faster and simpler than the alternative. And in today's video, I'm going to be walking you through a complete guide on how to index smart contracts on Rootstock using Subsquid. The example that we're going to be using is we're going to be using an ERC20 token launched on Rootstock mainnet, which is our wrapped RBTC. And this is it right here, token here, our wrapped RBTC token. This is mostly used for staking. If you are familiar with the Rootstock mainnet, you should know the wrapped BTC RBTC token, and we are going to be indexing this to track our transfer events. This video is for Web3 developers, for data indexers, and it's for Rootstock builders generally. If you are building on Rootstock, this video is for you. So let's get started, shall we? So before we jump into the code, these are some of the prerequisites you should have. You must be familiar with Git, or you should have Git installed and also Node.js installed. I would put code editor here, but I think that is already expected of anybody watching this video. So these are the two things that we need. We could get started right away. So let's get started. First, we create a folder, a directory, where we are going to install our CLI. We're going to need our Subsquid CLI. And this is the code to do the command. So this installs our Subsquid CLI. From there, we will begin to use Subsquid commands. Let's keep it a while. Okay, so we have it installed, and the next thing we are going to do is to get ready our template. Now, Subsquid has a support for basically any EVM compatible chain. So fetch any data from any EVM compatible chain. Just has templates. We'll go into the docs here. So getting to the docs, let's go to the docs, and we could see that basically these are the steps we are going to follow. It has an EVM template because Rootstock is an EVM compatible chain, right? So Subsquid has an EVM template which you could use to query any EVM compatible chain. So the command that we're going to use to initiate a project, a template for an EVM compatible chain is this. So squid a name. We will give you any name, but since you're already in the Rootstock directory, and I want to just make it in the root file, we could use dot and templates EVM. That's it. So now what it does is it downloads this template from the GitHub repo, and now we have this. Now we could do a little check on the environment, and let's see what we have here. We have our ABI folder, and in our assets, nothing much, just our README. Our database is there, and in our source file we have the ABI. This is very important. We have our model where we can find our main.ts file and our processor.ts file. All of these are very important in what we are going to be building. So let's install some things, because after doing this, we still have to run npm install. It's necessary to do that, install the dependencies. So basically, this is the format for any EVM compatible chain. This is the template that you're going to be getting. And all you just have to do is configure it to the Rootstock mainnet chain. And you have everything needed to work with here. So let's wait for this to complete. Okay, so now we have it installed, and let's do a very brief overview of our code. Now that everything is installed, you should be seeing less of the red lines. Yes, so let's see. So basically, what we are going to be focusing on is second. Okay, so now let's look at the code. Now that we have, I think we should be having a lot less of those red lines we had earlier on. These are the most important parts of this code that we're going to need. So our first instance is we need to look at our schema.graphql. Now this is where we are going to define our data model for the subgraph. Our processor.ts, it's going to be where we're going to configure the blockchain data source and the event handlers. So this is where we are going to input our Rootstock RPC URL and our smart contract address, so that we could tell Subsquid this is what we want to index. Then our main.ts is going to contain the logic for processing the events and saving the data. So basically that's all we're going to do, and everything should run smoothly. So let's begin, shall we? So we're going to start with our data schema, which is our schema.graphql. Now we have to think what we need when we are querying for a transfer function. Remember, it's an ERC20 token, and it's going to need a couple of things. It's going to need a couple of things, and we are to set our schema here. So if we are to start, we're going to need an ID. This is correct. We're going to need a from, and the from is going to be an address, because remember, it's a transaction. We are tracking the transfer, so there has to be a from and a to. So we could add that in here. I think index needs to. So let's add that. That's going to be a string. So it's going to be a string too. So what else do we need? We are going to need an amount. We're going to need an amount. And amount is basically an integer. So let's do that. We're going to need transaction hash. That would be obviously a string. What do we need? We're going to need a block number. Yeah. So this is already there, but let's just make it properly. Okay. We're going to need a timestamp. Let's take this all out. So I think this is what we need. And the reason why I added this index here is to specify to Subsquid to add an ID to every transaction. So this is why this index is there. It's like to force Subsquid to add this ID so that we can keep track of every transaction. It works even in your array or stuff. You have to put an ID whenever you're looking through something, right? You know the drill. Okay, and that's all we need. And so let me explain all of this. So the ID is a unique identifier for the transfer. And the reason why this index is there is to make sure that Subsquid adds it to every transaction detail. The ID has to be there so that it can be easy for if you're listening for events like this, you can always get an ID for it, and it's unique to each transaction. The from and to are the sender and the recipient addresses. The amount will be the amount of new RBT wrapped RBTC token that is going to be transferred. Transaction hash is going to be the transaction hash for reference, and block number, block metadata for sorting and querying, and the timestamp just to take note of the time. So that's all we need. After doing this, for us to generate TypeScript types for the entity we just created here, we have to run the command squid code gen, and this should get okay. Now we have that. Okay, so now that we run this, we could now go in and check to confirm if there's been any changes. Yes, as you can see, code has changed to modify itself for what we wrote in our schema. You see that we now have the ID, we have the block, we have the address, we have the value, and the transaction hash. Let's check our processor.ts. Like you can see, there's been changes. So there's still some more changes we are going to make, because obviously Subsquid doesn't know that we want to use the Rootstock chain, and it doesn't also know what smart contract we are indexing also. So we have to get that sorted out. So first off, we need to find out our EVM data source. And we already know that, which is Rootstock. Rootstock is EVM compatible, and we can configure our processor to connect to the chain. So let's get that sorted out. So like I said in the beginning of this video, we're going to be using our wrapped RBTC token address that's the contract that we're going to be querying. Let's go check it out in detail this time. But as you can see, this is the contract address, and there's also another thing that we're going to need when querying a particular smart contract, and what we need is the ABI. And how we're going to get the ABI is, for every verified transaction on the Rootstock mainnet, you could actually view the contract code, and you could also view the ABI over here. So all you just have to do is go to this tab here. If a smart contract is verified, you will see a green tick here. And once you click on this tab, you get to see everything about that particular smart contract. Since what we are looking for is the ABI, we have to click on this tab, the ABI. So we need this ABI because it's very necessary in detecting the particular smart contract that we are indexing. Let's copy it. We get the ABI from here, and if you are handling a smart contract, let's just say for an ERC20 token, which is deployed on the Rootstock mainnet, it follows the sample ERC20 token standard. So all the ABIs are the same actually. So if you cannot find the ABI for this one, you could use the sample 20 standard token standard ABI anywhere and it will work. So we copy this and go to our assets, create a JSON file, name it ERC20.json. Paste this here. We save. Next, the command that we're going to run to get the TypeScript types of this particular JSON file is this. So for us to generate our TypeScript types for this JSON file, we need to install the particular dependency which is going to help us with that. And this is what we're going to be installing. So this is Subsquid /evn-typegen, and we'll give it some moments for it to install. Okay, now we are done with that. So for us to generate the types, this is what we are going to, this is the command that we're going to use to be npx with subsquid /evm typegen. And this is important because we have to specify where we want the TypeScript conversion to be in, and we give a little space and we type the location of our JSON file. So ERC20.json. Now let's see if that works. Okay, I think we've got something. So this is our evaluation here. And from here on, we can proceed. We could look at it clearly to see what we are talking about. You could see the events, approval, deposit, transfer, withdrawal. Can I get the allowance? This is basically an ERC token standard here, and it's generated that for you. So let's proceed. So now after we've done that, this command creates the TypeScript bindings for the transfer events. And all we have to do next is we head to our processor.ts. Now this is important because we have to connect the Rootstock chain and listen for transfer events. So What do we need? We mostly don't need lots of this code here. Let's take out the unnecessary comments. Let's take this out. Let's clean this up for a bit. Let's clean this up. Yes, let's clean this up. So since Subsquid has some particular AVM chains which they support, and those chains are listed on in their documentation, but it does not mean that you cannot query a chain that is not officially listed on Subsquid. Subsquid supports all AVM chain. That's the beauty of it. So you could customize your subgraph to fit any chain as far as it is AVM compatible. So for Rootstock at the moment, Rootstock is not officially listed on Subsquid. So when Rootstock is officially listed, we would get a custom archive link, and this is what we're supposed to replace it with. But since it's not officially listed, we don't need this at the moment, so we could take it out. Now we have the RPC, set RPC endpoint, and this is where we need our RPC URL. But first off, let's just create variables for this so that we don't always have to repeat ourselves. It doesn't get repetitive, right? So we're going to need a couple of things. Let's see. We're going to import, or do we need that? I don't think we need that. We need to import our ABI, everything. So I think I did it right. Did I? Yeah. Oh, my bad. So this has to be in. So let's create some global variables to avoid repetition. So let's do it const wrap RPC address, and let's go check if this is actually true. Get our address here. We paste it here, and the next thing we need is our RPC URL. This is needed. So where do we get our RPC URL? We go to core documentation. In this particular URL, which is DevTools Wallet MetaMask, you can find the main net URL, RPC URL, which has been provided for us by the Rootstock documentation, and this is the one. So we can copy this. Let's get back to our code. Okay. So now we have our token address, and we have Rootstock RPC URL, both available to us. Now we are going to use this. Now we are going to use this to configure our processor.ts. The first thing we need, let's check our set RPC endpoint. And in the URL that is provided already, all we just have to do is replace it with this URL here. Rate limit 10 is okay. Set finality confirmation 75 is okay. Set fields log transaction from. So this is actually everything is being provided for us here. Set block range. Now this is important because we can't start from 0. If we start from 0, this shows when that block was created, the first time this block was created, and that is almost 4 years ago according to this token, right? 4 years ago. So we can't start that. That's going to crash the network. I mean, we are trying to, the essence of this is we can choose any part of the block we want to query and start from there. So we look for a particular block that interests us. So we let's go to transactions here. Remember, we are still in the token contract in the Explorer. So we come to the transactions here, and we look for any closed block that we want to use. Let's see, let's pick this one, for example, right? So this looks good. Let's get this block. 7 million. You could pick any. If you want to start from block 0, you could do that. That's on you. But I'm choosing this number, which is 7 million-ish. So this is where we're going to start from, right? And I think that's about it. Yeah, that should be it. We've had everything else. No. We are not done. Okay, so from here on, we have this, and we set the block range to 7 million, so that it is close by. There is still one more thing we need to add. We take this out. We don't need this because we are not adding any transaction. But instead, we use add log
and we use the address, takes the address of our WRBTC address, and let's go for the next argument, which is topics, and it's going to take the array of ARC20. Now we are doing all of this because it has been created already in our schema, right? All of this is expected already. So from here, we need to proceed. I'm having an error here. Let's see what is that. Oh, this is supposed to be in an array. This is okay. Just to be sure, let's make this to lowercase. Oh, my bad. And just to be sure, let's just make this to lowercase to avoid any future errors that might come through. So I think that's about it we have for here. We have the add log. I think that's about it we have for here. So explaining this, the set RPC endpoint connects the Subsquid to the Rootstock RPC. The rate limit sets a limit to the rates at which we request data from the Rootstock RPC. There should be only 10 requests, and this is to avoid being banned by the public node. The set finality confirmation is to wait for 75 block confirmation before considering the data final. Prevents the chain from corrupting your index. Now, the fields to fetch, already we've talked about that. This is from the schema already provided. And the block range, start indexing from there. It saves time by not indexing the entire chain from the genesis. If we put 0 here, we are going to start querying the chain from the genesis, which is not advisable except you have your own reasons for doing that. Add log filter is filter log so that I can only get the events emitted by the wrapped RBTC contract. The logs where the first topic is transfer for the address, and it only means that I'm capturing only the wrapped RBTC transfer event, nothing else. So I believe this is all covered. Now, next thing is we come to our main.ts, and we have to update this to handle our transfer events and map them to the transfer entity defined in the schema. So let's go. So basically, we won't be needing most of these things because these are for bonds, not transfers. So there are other things you have to listen to, and this is not it. Okay, so we don't need this code here. We're going to need something else. Let's take this out. Second. Okay. So let's take this out and rewrite this to fit our stuff, right? So we already have done this. I have a code here, snippet of code, which basically should fix this. Okay. Now we go to the main.ts, and we have to update our main.ts to fit in with our schema to handle our transfer events. So I have a snippet of code. Basically, first off, we are going to need our address again. I have a snippet of code basically because this is for bonds, and we are basically just going to change the whole of this, right? I'm going to change the whole of this. Some of it looks alike, but there's a whole lot of stuff that we don't necessarily need because we're only listening for transfers, not for bonds and other stuff. So there are some things we need to do too here, and also we need to import same as before. Okay, now my bad. Now that we have all of this, we can come into editing this place here. Now a lot of this part of the code is not needed. I don't think we need most of this stuff here because it's only transfers that we're looking for. I have a snippet of code which I'm about to show you in a minute. It's nothing too different from this. It just takes away all of the jargons here. And here we have something. So we are going to import transfer from the model generated. So I noticed that most of our functions here that we are supposed to get from our generated model are generated from the code gen that we ran. It's not working because I just realized my mistake, and I think it's in our schema. Yeah. So we're supposed to change this to transfer, right? It's not bundle anymore. It's transfer, and it's supposed to get everything that we need. So I think that was the problem. Early from to amount, transaction hash, blah blah blah, timestamp. Okay, so let's try it again. Okay, here we go. Thank God we have our main TS. So apparently some things should work better now. So we take one out, we don't need it anymore. And yes, so let's see. Transaction hash doesn't exist on the type. Let's see. So I think I figured this. Let's see if this works. Let's see if this works. So from here on, to explain this really, this is basically just receiving the data from the blockchain event and just displaying it for us to see. So this is why we have to make sure that everything is in place how it comes in and we don't make any kind of errors. So let's test this first to see if it works. So when we're done, we write, next thing is to initiate our program. We have to set up our database, which is Squid. Okay, Squid build. We'll give it some time for it to build. Okay. Then next one, which is Squid run. So yeah, we're having some errors. So let's look what we have. It says the manifest file on this cannot be passed. Validation error. Squid name was contained at least 3 symbols. Squid name dot symbol. Lowercase, last and letter, numbers and symbols. Okay, so let's go analyze that, shall we? We need to change this, obviously, because when you remember when we initiated this project, I had to use dot because I wanted it in the root folder, but I think that I shot myself in the foot by doing that. So I have to change this. I think this will suffice. If I name it Rootstock, should work. So let's see, I'll run it up again. Okay. So as you can see, it is trying to query. All of this is showing what it is which is running in the background, and it is trying to query, and then we have some errors. And if you can check, you will see where this error is coming from. It's saying connection failure using the chain RPC. So our public RPC node, which is this, is throwing error because I actually don't know the reason why it's throwing these errors. But I think if you use this for the moment now, the public URL provided by Rootstock, official Rootstock documentation, is quite unstable for now. So the best solution is to use a third party. If you have a Blast API account, which gives you free RPC URLs, which you could use to query data, you could use that. For me, I use Alchemy. So let's go to Alchemy. Right, let's get an RPC URL. Let's get an RPC URL for Alchemy, from Alchemy rather. So Alchemy supports Rootstock. That is good. So we have this. We can copy this URL, and I'm pretty sure it should work now. So we have to replace this public with this. I know it's pretty lengthy, but it should do the trick. So let's clear our terminal so that you could see better. We have to build again and run. Let's see if that works. So you can see it's querying the new chain, and I think it works. So if you look at the terminal, okay, so I got this error because it says transfer does not exist, which means the database, this is basically saying that my database doesn't have the transfer table yet. So Subsquid have generated the model, but the DB schema wasn't migrated up or applied. So we run this command, squid migration that generates our migration, and the next one we have to do is to now apply it. So we use this command, squid migration apply. Okay, so everything is running. Let's build and try this again. So I'm still getting errors, and it's saying that there is no field transaction hash. I think I know where this might be coming from. Let's check this. I feel like this might be a problem, but let's see. So I figured out the problem, guys, and I think this needed some more fields. In the set fields, I think we're supposed to have a log field. and in there we'll have topics. Give my bad typing. True. Data. True. And transaction hash. True. Let's format this to look a bit good, to look better than how it is. Okay. So now that we're in here, I don't think we need to make it this way anymore. I think this works just fine, and this works just fine too. Okay, so in case you are querying your data and you encounter errors such as this, so in case you are querying your data and you encounter errors such as this, please always cross-check your schema, cross-check your main.ts, cross-check your processor.ts. Always go back to confirm if your entity matches the processor. It must always match, else it won't work. So we have to squid build again, and let's run it. If it's successful, this should work. You should see our blocks running in our terminal. Okay, so as you can see from the beginning block which we put out, it's showing it, displaying each block in our terminal. Now, if you want a browser, if you want to see it on your browser so that you can interact with it directly, all you have to do is go to, on your browser, localhost 4350/GraphQL, and if you hit search, you should see an interface which you can interact with your subgraph. So this is it, and you can see what we are looking for here is our transfers. So we tick amount, block number, from, ID, timestamp to a transaction hash. These were all the entities that we needed, and hit the play. And here we go. We have all our data available to us as seen. So our amount, our block number, from, to, ID, literally everything is given to us. So you can choose how you want this to. You could set the limits, which is 10, and if you hit play, you get 10. So basically, this is how to query smart contracts in Rootstock using Subsquid. Subsquid is fast. Once you get the hang of it, it's very fast and it's queried very easy. So congratulations guys, you've successfully written your subgraph on Subsquid. So it's been a good ride. We started out with explaining how Subgraph helps in terms of indexing smart contracts. It helps cut down the data needed instead of querying the whole chain, and why it is needed. We went through the process of why we choose Subsquid over its competitor, which is Graph, and we went on to test and see how using the mainnet wrapped RPC, we queried this contract and we were able to get the transfer details, and we're able to get the transfer details from each transaction. So this is on mainnet, not on even testnet. This is on the mainnet, and everything is live, as you can see. So you could run this on your machine anytime you need to query the data for any purpose. If you are building an application that needs you to query, or you're building a DEX, or you're building a DApp, you're going for a hackathon and you need a quick stuff to do and you need to query Rootstock mainnet, you could use Subsquid and build your subgraph. So thank you guys. See you in the next video.